and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to give you my wrap up of what I read in April, so let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so the first book that I read for the month of April was On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. As you guys know, that author has blown up like exponentially after her debut novel, The Hate You Give, which was adapted to film. So when this book was set to release, I did want to read it, but I wasn't necessarily rushing to read it because although I liked The Hate You Give, her first novel, I wasn't like wowed by it. I just kind of was like, okay, it's good, but there were some issues with it, which I have a whole video on my opinions and views of The Hate You Give. It's a young adult book about a young girl named Bree who is an aspiring rapper. Her father was a rapper as well, and her father died at a young age or was murdered at a young age. And essentially she lives with her mother and her older brother, but her mother also used to battle drug addiction. That's basically kind of what going into the book. And this book, I felt like you could see the growth in the writing and the development of the characters. I also felt like Bree, the main character, was complex, but it was all kind of believable, relatable. It felt genuine and authentic, flowing. I think it was more so because it felt like just her story versus kind of tying in all these different pieces and presenting it to a particular audience. I felt like this was more so just showcasing what it's like to grow up in a household where you are not necessarily financially stable. Your parent or guardians are trying, and basically how people really can't not even catch a break, but things just are not level playing field, and how people are misjudged. So I really appreciated and enjoyed the book. Also, it follows like some of her relationships, navigating with her best friends. The things that I would change about the book, a lot of the references felt dated. And I said this about The Hate You Give as well, but it just felt like some of the references were things that I felt like were dated for me, and I'm much older I'm like twice the age of Brie. Because, it's like a 16-year-old girl and she's like obsessed with like Biggie and knows like Rakim and stuff. And I'm like, Rakim, that was before my time. So like, I get like you say, oh, your auntie put you onto this, but it just, some of those references were just weird. I don't know. It's kind of like, I feel like that's not really what teens nowadays would really listen or how they would really talk. One of the characters had a huge crush on Justin Bieber, and I'm like, how is that possible if you're 16? Like when they're talking about the Baby song, that phase, I'm like, that was like 10 years ago. So what is this kid, 6, when he had this huge crush on? I don't know. It's just stuff like that makes it like, it makes it a little weird. But then, she did some Cardi B references to kind of keep it a little bit more current, but yeah, that's my only gripe. That part didn't really feel as believable, but again, I'm not a teen, so maybe a teen who reads that will be excited to learn more about older people. Ooh, that's a lot of talking on that. Next up, the next book that I read, you guys already know I loved this book. This book is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. This is a nonfiction novel. If you haven't already, definitely check out my vlog that I did of us traveling to Denver. It was a writing and reading vlog. I really get in depth on my emotions throughout while reading this book, but I will say what I'll leave you with is that this was 5 stars. Like, I wouldn't change really hardly anything about the book. I mean, some of the things a little bit repetitive, as far as like some of the chapters, you're like, okay, I get it. But part of it is also these individuals telling their story, so that she captured more so like the realness in the way they're telling the story. This is narrative nonfiction. It does not read like nonfiction. It is storytelling. It's beautiful, and I'm just like blown away. I know I will read this again at some point in my lifetime, but I cannot emphasize enough how strongly I recommend this book. This is the one book of today's wrap up that I would say you have to read. Like, this is you must read. Last but not least, I read The 4 Agreements, which this is such a random read for me. I just have never been a fan of self-help books at all. So the fact that I actually read this was really shocking to even myself, but I'm open to reading more self-help books. This is the second one I think that I've read this year, and I'm 2 for 2. This was really good. the Four Agreements, like this is very spiritual, like, so if you're not really like into like spiritual things or feel like things like that are hippie, you may not enjoy this, but I took so much out of this. All Four Agreements I have been applying to my life, and I feel like it's just it's fitting at the stage of where I'm at in my life. This doesn't subscribe to any one faith system. It's something that's not really, it doesn't matter what religion you are. This is principles. These are principles you can apply to your own. If there's any self-help book that I could recommend, it would be this. It's funny because in college, I went through a period where I was reading all this self-help, and that's kind of what deterred me from reading from fun, and I kind of messed up my reading habits. And I kind of just was like, I don't like self-help anymore. And then I kind of went to spiritual reading, and then I kind of was like, oh, I feel like I'm working when I'm reading. This was actually tangible. It wasn't drawn out. It was kind of straight to the point, reiterated some thoughts, but I felt like this was a solid, good read of things I could apply to my life. So I would recommend this. And if I had to give this a rating, I would give this 4 to 5 stars. I would say 5 stars on the principles, the writing. I mean, you're not really reading for creative writing here. So yeah, it's hard to rate this one as well. But I definitely am going to purchase. This is a library copy. I'm purchasing a copy to own. So that lets you know. That was a lot of yapping for not so many books. I mean, it's funny because I only had 3 books this month, but that's because clearly The Warmth of Other Suns is like 600 plus pages, and I was really like rereading some passages from it. But I felt like I did have a good reading month because I enjoyed what I read, and I took a lot from what I read. So this month I actually will be doing a TBR. So after this video, definitely check that out. I kind of feel like TBRs help me better on my reading, even if I don't end up finishing all the books that I have on them. So I'm going back to that. Anyways, love and light, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.